Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
They're the same distance away from the Phillies in third place as they are last place. Weimer, a high fly ball, deep center field. Going back is Nimmo. At the track, at the wall, gone! Joey Weimer flips this game. It's 2-1 Crew.
1-2, high fly ball, deep to left field. Wave, bye-bye. Ronald Acuna with a bat flip and a 2-run blast. And it's 4-1 Braves.
The next pitch. It's low. It gets away from the catcher, Grandal. Trout will score, and the ball game is over. So, boy, what a gift win tonight. A walk-off win for the Angels on a wild pitch brings in the winning run. Mike Trout.
Slater fires the 2-0 pitch. Ground ball full start. It takes a tough bounce over the top of Halter. Joe Bear rounding third, headed for home. He will be safe. Going down to second. Thompson is safe. And the Tigers make it 7-2. Jordan Thompson making it happen when it matters most. The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. And all is right in the world. Tigers win. Tigers win. The national championship is headed back to Baton Rouge. The dog pile begins left of the mound.
Oh, I see it. That's nice.
There it is, people.
Omaha.
For everybody out there. The T-shirt
Omaha.
game is 3 for 3, DB.
Oh, Lord.
3 for 3. LSU, your national champions. And they did it in commanding fashion. It was like what we saw in game 2 for one team. Turned out to be the case for the other team in the box score. It's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. He's DB. I'm Andrew Rogers. We're happy to have you with us on a Tuesday. I feel like I got my voice back after the weekend.
I do not, but going up on a Tuesday. Doesn't hurt.
But even if you didn't get your voice back, you got your appetite back at home, right? Because you got that home-cooked meal you were waiting for.
I grilled myself some steaks. Everybody, he in particular, wanted to eat before hoops. And they played at 5 and 6. They had Millard North and Bellevue West.
Did he eat steak too?
Yeah.
Heavy meal before basketball.
Yeah, it was like 3 though. 2:45.
So this was a late lunch.
Yeah, that's not my thing.
Because you beat the senior citizen discount.
Yeah, that's definitely not my thing. But I mean, it's whatever. I mean,
did you guys eat again? Like later on?
Heck no. Heck no. Not chill.
Are you starving right now?
No, I'm not too bad. Like I have I went with the old turmeric, cayenne, apple cider vinegar.
Isn't this what your normal drink of choice?
Yeah, but I hadn't been doing it for like 4 months. So I started back yesterday. And it's just as bad as I remember. Man.
Is it like greens? What is it?
No, so that's literally what it is. So it's a little bit of cayenne pepper.
Right, but what's it supposed to do? Like just make
it's a metabolism.
Got it. Okay.
Starter. And it's just not good. I can't. So
is it in that little yet?
No. This is stay clear, have no fear. That's just wise. So
you chug it at home?
Yeah, it's only like 5 ounces.
Okay.
And it's warm water and a little squirt of honey. It's not good. It's turmeric cayenne.
Do you ever feel like you're going to throw it up after you're done?
Nope. Just slam that bad boy down. Unfortunately, I've tasted a lot of terrible drinks in my life.
And what'd you say? And powered through?
Yeah.
Stay clear. Have no fear.
Yeah.
I believe that's what they say on the subway. Oh, wait, no, that's of the closing doors, please.
Yeah, so it was cool. Got my music game right. My voice is not, it's just okay, though.
So when you're in the car traveling by yourself, which is what you did over the weekend, right? Going back and forth.
Yeah.
Are you ever like the person that and I'm going to guess because you don't seem like this personality, but I also didn't strike you as somebody that would like honk at me in the parking lot and like smile as you're going by.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That was I don't know what I was on
I don't know if
day.
that was once in a blue moon or if that's actually you.
Probably.
Are you the person that like sings and jams out in his car if you're alone?
Yeah, probably. Like I'll sing, I guess. I don't know about jam out though, but like Micah gets in, he was in the way back. And it's whatever, the third row seat. And so I felt like a chauffeur, but it's almost always just me and him rolling. So like
so he was in the car too. It wasn't just you.
Yeah, but he's in the back with his AirPod because he has the whole setup with his charger, and he brings his pillow and whatever. And it rained like the whole way.
I wish we could get some rain up here.
So when I left, it was a little overcast because I think it was like in the 6s a.m. Saturday morning. I'm sure you were probably still asleep, but I got to like
because I was up till 3 the night before.
No, seriously, I bet I wasn't even to Glenwood, and it started to rain. So and it rained almost the whole way. So I played music on the way back. It was crazy. I saw, and if this is you, I apologize. I won't give up your license plate, but there's a big white truck. And he had a Northwest Missouri State sticker in the back. So, but I saw him. It was a sweet truck. I mean,
Cats or something. I ran into
it was a
there this
big old monster, and he had like this red, black, and white flag license plate on the back. And I was in the right lane. I had the cruise on 76. It's chill, right? I mean, it's Sunday at whatever time it was, 7:30 or 8, and dude was rolling. I mean, rolling. He blew past me in the left lane, and I had some smoked almonds. So the canister was sitting in my lap. I just had kind of peeled the foil back. So all I did was I put the lid on, and I put it in the
cup holder.
Nope, the passenger seat next to me. So probably 3 or 4 seconds of not like looking. I saw a Charger with its lights on run this dude down and pull him over. It happened. I don't know where either one of them came from, but yeah, that truck got pulled over about 30 seconds after it passed me.
What speed do you think he was going? Because there's so many times where I'm in a car where I'm speeding and I'm like, okay, I guess going 7 over or 8 over or 10.
Yeah, so I was 6. So I was 76, and there weren't a ton of cars out. It was kind of chill mode. He had to be going probably 90. Oh. But the Charger had all sorts of lights. Like it had lights on top, it had lights in the front, it had the lights in the back. I was like, dang, it looks kind of like I don't know where. I assume it was him. I don't know where he was going, but like that's not even like there weren't even a lot of cars.
Did you pass any ramps or anything?
I don't know. It was the stretch right between Mound City and like
okay.
It was in between Mound City and Council Bluffs.
Yep. Okay.
And he got ran down.
Yeah, where would he be hiding? Because is there still construction on that highway? No.
Well, yeah, a little, but it's only for like maybe a mile.
But it's pretty open. Like you can see everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's wide.
Where would
it's wide open. But I was on Dodge. This was probably Thursday. This is the middle of the day. I just gotten Micah. And a motorcycle. This was between the Maple and Dodge Street exit, but on the freeway, or is it Shane? Is it a freeway or interstate? Whatever. On that little stretch, man, this motorcycle came by me doing well over 100
on the overpass.
So they went like he whipped around between. So there's the Maple Street exit, and then your next one's Dodge.
Oh, gotcha, over there.
So I was in between Maple and Dodge, and by the time I had gotten to the Dodge Street exit, I wasn't getting off. I stayed on because I was going ILQ. That motorcycle was out of sight, and it was broad daylight. It was like 2:30.
Well, those guys know they can just outrun anybody.
and those are the things that scare me on those things. I mean, that's probably the
that's a reckless speed.
That's the fastest I've ever seen
a bike go.
Yeah. And I remember we were on the PCA. We were in California 2 years ago.
PCA?
PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, on this stretch. And I saw a motorcycle disappear in about 3 seconds. I was like, when he's just gone. I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. But I'm so afraid, man. I just was like, that
especially
is nuts.
too, I mean, when you're going that fast, sometimes if you're a car and say you're, let's just say 2 miles ahead, right? And you're just going at your own pace and like you don't see anybody in the left lane, but there's a car in front of you. So you just start to go like into the left lane to pass. And then all of a sudden you just hear it. Yeah. And this dude could wipe out and boom. I don't think Dingman's could save that bike.
Well, Dingman's definitely needs to, hit those guys up. 4 great locations in the metro area. He'd probably been going to the Papillion one, Southwest. Did you see did you see it on the scanner, the Cadillac CTS that hit the gate, turning into the neighborhood opposite?
I didn't see it on the scanner.
So it's like it's the first neighborhood 1 block north of 108th and Harrison. On the east side, that fence is smashed.
Is it?
And there were like 3 police cars, and there were a couple of like cars that looked like they were built for racing, and they were all kind of pulled over right as you turn into our neighborhood on the corner of the street. I was like, man, how did he cut that corner so fast? And those CTSs are sweet. Like I love those sedans.
Dude, did you see? Side note on the scanner? Did you see on?
Why were they doing the CWS updates?
I don't know.
I know those guys too. And gals.
That was weird. Did you see on Thursday or Friday? I think it was Thursday.
No.
Well, they told you why.
Why? I didn't. I just
didn't read it. But
I came in the middle of it. I just, you know what I mean.
They went back.
First couple of days we were working.
People asked the question, like, why are you guys doing this? And they just blatantly told them why.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, whatever.
So it may have been Wednesday. I'm driving on, and you got to forgive me on roads because I struggle. So if I'm on the road, I took 60th, and then I went right where Baxter's to my left, Baxter Arena, and I went right on that road. There's a Baker's and a Hy-Vee over there. If
so you're on Saddle Creek.
Okay, so that's the road I'm on.
Yeah.
There's a funeral home.
Oh yeah,
off to the right. So we're driving to go to this Baker's.
Dude, on 51st and Center? It had to be.
Maybe.
You talking about where the guy walked in and shot himself?
Yeah, the funeral home.
Yeah.
So we're driving and there's this caution tape around the whole place.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And they
that was Center Street.
They had like a blanket or a tarp over the vehicle. Yeah, not.
So I never read that. I never read the story, but apparently he walked in.
So he walked in and dumped his stuff off.
Yeah, and said, but who were the people in the car though?
It was his mom and him.
Really?
That's what I heard.
I didn't read this. I didn't read the story.
I heard it was.
That stuff is too sad for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not nosy like that. Like,
well, I was nosy because I drove by it.
No,
so
I know.
Then I was trying.
I know, but I know you like you're inquisitive and you like the people watch and all that stuff. Like,
oh yeah, that's me.
That is totally not me. Man. I could give 2 cares.
I people watched a ton yesterday downtown.
Yeah, these people were standing in the lobby like at the hotel, and it was like deep. And Mike was like, "Yeah, you know what's going on?" I was like, "Man, I couldn't care less. Like, I couldn't get to my room fast enough. I'm just not.
You're not that type of person.
No, and you know those people. Oh, let's just go. People, mind your own business.
Nope.
Mind your own business.
No,
like,
don't do anything under my nose.
You know what I mean? It's like people are just nosy.
Can't get away with anything when I'm around.
That line at the hotel was like 60 deep. I don't even know how they got like that. But it was a monster. I'm sure you've driven past it. It's that big Sheridan that's connected to like Legoland.
Yeah.
At Crown Center. And I was like, man, whatever is going on here is monster. But it was a big hotel. I used the underground parking. I almost got lost. I'm dead.
Going up or down or in your car?
From my car back to the
hotel.
Yeah. Hey, it's like one. Listen.
Like an episode of Black Mirror. You're just looking around. Like,
I've never seen that movie, but I felt like something real bad could happen under here. Like I'm not messing around in those underground parking garages. I think I'm good on that. It's so far away. But then I realized you could side hustle. The dude at the door was like, "Oh no, parking it's free right here and it's free across the street." And I was like, "Shoot, man, I already paid the whatever $15 for the night." But then it was worth the peace of mind to waste the $15 and just park across the street and walk.
Right.
It's a weird setup. I'm sure there's thousands of people that have stayed there, but yeah, I was not a fan of that parking garage.
Were you ever a Twilight Zone guy?
Yeah, that used to be my jam.
So Black Mirror's the new Twilight Zone.
So Twilight Zone, like the one episode that I always remember is with the giant spider. The Twilight Zone, the old ones still come on.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like
Talking Tina was my favorite.
But some of that stuff I can't even believe like I liked as a kid, but you didn't know any better. You didn't have any comps. Like no comparisons.
Right.
I was telling somebody the other day I watched Jaws because I usually always watch it, and I just can't believe how bad that movie was. And I was like all in. Like I think
such a poor film.
I think that's what started like my whole shark
fandom
fix.
for sharks.
Yeah. There was I almost sent it to you. There was a deal on it's either TikTok or so. I think it's TikTok because I get a lot of shark ones now.
Jaws is just poor because it's dated.
It sucks.
It's a good movie.
The lady's like doing the audio under the water, and she's like, "Hey, swimming with these tiger sharks. I just want to tell you why it's so important to have a firm shove when sharks start to get close to you. You need to let them know that you're in control." So the shark, like tiger, it's from me to you.
Mm-hmm.
She like puts her hand out and kind of guides his hand away, his head.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. See, like these people are all worried about the.
Yeah, but what if you stick your hand out and then the shark just eats it?
No, it's just weird, man. Those shark attacks happen when people don't see. Like, get in the water and see what's going on. And I know, like, the clearer the water, the better. Like, I'm not saying, hey, man, I got this fantasy to go in some murky water and try to fend off sharks. I don't. But like, you get in the right water at the right time of day. Oh man, I'm all in. She was cooler than a fan too. She had this sweet shark suit, and I was like, "See, I'm doing that."
Yep. And you know what? I will continue to watch on
TikTok.
TikTok.
I'm doing that.
I'll
man.
just watch. I'll be a scroller. I don't need to see him up close.
I'll send it to you.
She just was like,
"Yeah, go on." The shark just went on.
It is cool to watch him guide him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a couple of TikToks later, I saw a cruise ship. And so now it's cool to see where they dump the food and stuff and see what sharks do. Mm-hmm. So there was like a frenzy trailing the cruise ship behind it.
Yep.
And the kid that was narrating was like, "Why you don't jump off cruise ships?"
Yes.
And I was like, wow, #too soon.
Yeah. Well, how about all those people throwing chairs off of cruise ships now?
Nah, I don't
just for views.
I went on a cruise once.
We're kind of living in a reckless society because of social media.
And I think I'm okay. It was okay. Right.
Did you see the one with the storm that took place either yesterday or 2 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
These chairs are flying around the ship, and I saw one dude just come sliding by trying to get inside. No. Umbrellas flying everywhere.
Heck no. I'm not going to say cruises are overrated, but that's not my jam either.
But you wouldn't be the first person to say that because there's only a few cruises I've heard that are like worth it. Like Alaska cruises I heard are really nice. But if you went like on a Caribbean cruise, they're like, why don't you just go stay at a resort?
I had a bad experience. So like it just stuck with me. I had a broken thumb and I dropped a dumbbell. I'll never forget. I smashed my own thumb. Super dumb, but
Bell.
Yeah. No, me dumb.
I know.
But yeah, the dumbbell. And the bathrooms were so small. I had a hard time navigating with a bad hand. Showering, using the restroom, really so I didn't eat a ton. Yeah, like because it was my right hand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it being a very good experience.
Well, speaking of Cruz,
yeah, God, he's silly.
Dylan Cruz, the Golden Spike Award winner.
Shane, that's a movie you'd like. Warrior.
Warrior.
He's a big Bruce Lee guy.
He's reached base safely in all 71 games this year.
Yeah.
All 71 games. And
dude, there was some Bryce Matthews stats.
Let's just say his streak dated back to last year and touched 75. He reached base 71 straight times this year. 71.
Wow.
You know how hard that is to do in any level?
You know how popular his dad is? Oh, my gosh. If they showed that dude on television one more time, I'm like, he's just trying to mind his own business. But I did wonder if he had hair under there. You know how he has kind of the free-flowing locks and his hat was always on backwards. I wondered if he was bald or not.
Thatcher Hurd, what about him?
He settled down, man. It just kind of exclusively went to the fastball. I think he was trying to be too cute early. And got touched up and then just kind of settled in nicely.
I like he realized all you have to do is throw strikes.
I like his tempo. I liked his tempo a ton.
I really like.
We were saying, like, how many times do you see people now? The last 2 games, my theory got slapped around a little bit. But remember, these good hitters are hitting like in the 300s, and you make outs in BP. So you don't string together a ton of hits. Just throw strikes. And what happened to Florida with the 10 free passes, and you hit a couple guys, doesn't take too many hits, and then you just let LSU start to settle in. Like, there's just too many freebies going
guys on base.
God, it's just
your worst enemy as a pitcher.
Drive you bonkers.
All you have to do is throw strikes, and that's what Hurd was doing. He didn't, as you said, he didn't try to get cute with it after the first inning, but. Going on the other side, Caglione, he's a little overhyped when it comes on the mound. His bat is for real. I mean, he can also throw 97, 98. I'm not taking that away from him, but he just does not have a lot of command. You'll get pitches that are high.
He was effectively wild his last time out. I think he got by.
Right. You'll get pitches that are outside more times than in the zone. And LSU just was able to pick up on him so quickly because they knew they didn't have to swing the bat in order to get on first base. And then you're using your bullpen, and now you're going deeper and deeper and deeper. But kudos to LSU. They strung hits together. They were on base 35 times in this game.
Yeah, and I think the top of that lineup got sick of hearing about the bottom of the lineup carrying them. And they got busy yesterday.
And it was practically a home game.
Yeah.
All series, it's been a home game.
I get it because we said it yesterday, the day before, or Friday. Like, I understand, right? Because most of my good CWS experiences, like the memorable ones, I can think of a couple like at the Blatt with Mark Richt, Georgia, Fresno State. When I was a kid, I remember one with Oda B. McDowell. But almost all... Yeah, ASU was here. I like almost all my good CWS experiences, especially post the Blatt, have been LSU related. So I get why Omaha has embraced the whole LSU phenomenon, but it's crazy.
Well, how crazy is
it? It is absolutely nuts how it's just like Omaha. It's just Omaha. It's Baton Rouge West is what Omaha is.
Well, how crazy, too, is it that when you talk to an LSU fan, they're like, oh, Husker football.
Yeah,
go Huskers.
It's crazy.
I'm like, what?
I know, right? They don't even know the Joe Burrow story.
No.
I kid.
We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes.
Alter Curlin and then Langford.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Alter Curlin and then Langford. And this one is driven to left center field. Cruz is going back. He's still going back. Leaps at the wall and makes the play. Oh, what a catch by Dylan Cruz at the wall. That's how you win a Golden Spikes Award, and it is largely considered the #1 overall pick in the country.
Tip your cap, because this is as good as it gets. This dude looks at the wall, then he peeks one more time. Now finish the playoff, kid. What a play by Dylan Cruz.
Yeah, the peak was sweet.
24 hits, single game CWS record for LSU.
And not to be outdone, because Florida had what, 20?
Yesterday when they tied the record.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is nuts. I mean, they just kept stringing hits together, and then in the late innings, it was just like, yeah, LSU's not going to stop.
How good did like Morgan and White and Cruz have to be to overshadow Joe Bear? Because when his swing, I think he had another 4 hits. Mm-hmm. He looks nice at the dish. Like, I don't know. Once Florida lost the ability to throw strikes, it was like just batting practice.
And it wasn't a home run derby.
No.
It was just, hey, let's just put the ball on the outfield. And just put the ball on the barrel. Jordan Thompson did that best, I think, yesterday. And I talk about a guy that was able to just turn off what happened in game 2.
Yep.
And we talked about that, how difficult it is. Is it the errors or the hits to overcome? And I said the errors are going to be harder to overcome. But a true gamer is able to block that stuff out. And that's Jordan Thompson. First time he stepped up to the plate, he wasn't rattled. He put the barrel on the bat and just poked one. Poked a single, and you made it 2-1.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he hit another single, which was also an RBI in the 4th, I believe. Yeah. So you just kind of like take a peek at what he was able to do. How many hits did Jordan Thompson have going into that game? I don't know if you heard it on the broadcast, but I'm going to hope that you didn't.
I didn't.
He was 1 for 30 going into that game.
I think what he finished last night? 2 of 6, maybe?
2 for 6. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. His only hit was in game 1 of the College World Series.
Yeah. So the funny thing about like their approach to the plate, and they just have hard outs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
that is true.
They're just
like you could hit the ball 110 and it's right to the first base.
And like you can live with that. And they just were unflappable. I thought Jay Johnson he's such an easy guy to like. And I'm a little biased anyway, just because and listen, Sully's, I'm sure he's fine. I don't know him. I can only comment
when we talked to him, he was a really nice guy.
I can only comment on my interactions. He's just sometimes tough in interviews, right? He's very direct. He's pretty terse. And there are guys like that. And I don't know if that's a reflection of his character or not, but it just seemed like LSU would handle this moment better because they've had their backs against the wall since Monday or Tuesday, but that fan base was just electric. And again, I know folks are adding me. I get it, but I don't get it. Is it because we don't see them in any other sport, really?
It's almost as if they're
like, is there an LSU?
Their commitment to LSU football is their commitment to LSU baseball.
No, but like, why do Nebraskans embrace LSU the way that they do?
Probably because LSU
did
what they did to me yesterday by saying, "Hey, Husker fan, like, yeah,
just fun loving."
Yeah, they're just, and you know what? It's fun to incorporate yourself in that group.
Yeah, so like a lot of our cool, I was telling you earlier, a lot of like our cool interviews, they have the good tailgate row in Lot D. It's kind of dangerous over there. You gotta, like, you'll be there all day if you don't have some boundaries.
You don't walk past
like
blinders.
You gotta have some boundaries over there. You'll find yourself there all day, but. They were tearing down like their fryers, and I saw the signs, the fresh crawfish here, and who's your daddy? Get your crawdaddies. Like their tailgate row. Kellyanne. They get it.
They get it on.
They're just. I don't know if it's just that they're naturally friendly, or what, but the way Omaha embraces LSU is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, I don't know if we're like that with any other team in any other sport. Like,
I also think too, you look at the community support that LSU provided to Omaha.
You talking about like revenue?
But yeah, just going over to Rocco's and spending 80,000 or putting away 80,000 Jello shots like that right there is like $400,000.
Can we stop right there? Like, they're about to go home when we make our Jello shot predictions. They're going home.
Mm-hmm.
And they're at 21K.
Yep.
And you've got to beat Wake twice. And they quadrupled the number since then.
Yep. They flipped my 32K prediction, the bird. And that was high, DB. That was high.
I thought it was high too. I thought I was safe as a kitten with 28.5. That was another 7,000. And let's say you got by Wake the first time, but the second time I'm like, let's say they do 3,500 a night. I got to be close. Nah, not even in the ballpark.
How high do you think that final number will reach now? They were at 64,800 13 hours ago. This was during the game.
They got to go to bed, don't they?
Do they? I mean, we saw some madness take place after the game in downtown Omaha.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, I mean, we have people like, really getting to know each other. We have some other people that are, we're spitting game during the game.
Hey, I'm telling you, I guarantee the girl, the talk to the hand girl, she probably was dating somebody out there because she's sitting with three or four other girls.
Mm-hmm.
They're all sitting down. They look like
they
were significant. Yeah,
right?
they look like they were significant. Just the way I don't know.
10-2. She pointed out there. So who's out in the field that she's dating when it's 10-2? Was Hurd still pitching when it was 10-2?
So
I don't think so.
It was either that or she was like, "Hey, just watch the game, buddy. Like, we're here for the game. You may be here for a good time. I'm here for the game."
Hey, you see that guy that's the guy wearing number 3 out there? Yeah, he's about to get paid, and I'm with him.
I don't even, he looked like. And what was with the Kugels? Was like that the thing to have last night?
Summer shandies?
Yeah.
I love me some summer shandy.
Was anybody just drinking anything regular? Or was it like and listen, hear my heart. I'm not a beer connoisseur, so don't at me about my opinions. It just seems like it seems like there were way too many summer shandies for the amount of testosterone.
Yeah, I stood by a couple of fans that were drinking.
Or maybe it's good. Is it good hot? When it's hot out?
Yeah, I used to drink it in the summer a ton.
Okay, so is it lemony?
Yeah, it's lemon.
Okay. Yeah, see that?
But I'm standing next to these two LSU fans, and one guy's holding up a chicken. Okay, just holding the chicken.
A rubber chicken?
Like a rubber chicken.
Old school Texas Tech style?
Yeah, and I walked up to him, and I'm like, because I ask questions.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
I go, hey, like, what's the significance behind it? Because I thought maybe it's we've been doing this all season long. No, what happened was these two guys got obliterated after the butt whooping that took place in game 2. They left the Chuck, walked down the street to some random convenience store looking for some sort of life, some sort of spark. And they walked into the store and go, the chicken spoke to us. So they bought this rubber chicken.
They were drunk when they were telling you this or drunk when they did it? Or
both?
They're
both. Yeah, both. They bought this rubber chicken, came back and go, yeah, this is the first game that we held the rubber chicken. But we just hold it in the air, and then after something good happens, everybody rubs it. And, rubs the fill in the blank.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was kind of their
Yeah, there was a lot going on in the stands.
It was wild.
Yeah,
but it's so cool to be a part of. Like, it was every second inning. Fans are on their feet as if it's the 8th, and they are trying to rally and get some
how
runs.
about the 6th spot, though, where you like, yeah, this one's over. So the two officials that were doing the summer basketball game, super cool. And so I was giving them, updates. And, when I first said, hey, Florida just left the yard 2-0. They come back over during the timeout. Where we at? And I was like, hey, 3-2, LSU's threatening, still only 1 out, and I'm like 6-2. My guy looked at me, he's like, yeah, I think this one's over. They got the home crowd behind them too. And you could just see the place was just going ham.
Mm-hmm.
If you were Florida, did you feel like it was being because the Florida crowd the day before wasn't near as animated having fun?
Nope.
Right?
But if LSU would have won that game 24 to whatever, they would have been on their feet, drinking, throwing stuff.
LSU just seems to have way more fun. I didn't look at it like Florida was getting their face rubbed in it, but that would have been hard to watch because they kept panning in the dugout. And it was just a slow bleed. Like you said, balls weren't leaving the yard. It was just like hit.
Well,
pass ball.
I almost wonder if it was easier for Florida to take, knowing that it was 18-4 versus you lose
6-5
in the
palpable.
9th. Yeah.
I think I'd rather lose the close one.
Probably. Take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes.
Right people, right place, right time.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Right people, right place, right time. This was the way it's supposed to go. Probably more impressive than winning the national championship is they were national champions every single day from the first meeting till the last pitch tonight. Let's go!
Is that a thing?
Anti?
Hey, listeners.
I don't know.
Is there a thing? Are there anti-beer goggles where you like?
Sounds so weird.
Well, like
not,
what?
We need to create them.
So I'm guessing there is. And I try not to ever be like that outside the confines of maybe my closet or my home. But is anybody ever out there like where you're just so inebriated, like you actually think you're good looking? Or do you like always think you're good looking and it's enhanced? I know you can sometimes think other people are good looking. But my man that got shot down, I was just talking with Ken on Twitter with the talk to the hand. I still think she said, I'm watching the game, not my dude is out there, right? But it was probably one of those two things. But at what point do you give your guys some credit just for having the stones? There is a thing called liquid courage, right? I know I say liquid Shano.
There is.
But there is liquid courage, right?
Yeah.
You think that's what he was saying?
Well, so I think he's a confident enough individual sober so that when he puts beer in his body, then he just like doesn't have any fear. So I would say like that's more this guy versus, hey, it's just I was drinking and that's what made me confident. But I also looked at it from the stance of, if you look at like how old that guy was versus how young
I
that
didn't
girl
want to
was.
speculate just because he kind of had the little, the free flowing kind of curly locks.
Yeah, I don't know if he had a chance.
But here's the deal, though. So, can I just say this?
Say whatever you want.
Okay. Why do people not understand, or do they just not care that you've probably been outside all day and hygiene is going to be an issue?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
hey, when you start putting beer in your body, all that goes out the window. I'm telling you, it doesn't go out the window for you, but for everybody else, especially down in the bayou. They're always sweating down there.
Like, hygiene's got to be a thing. Like, how do you have I don't know, man. It gives me the absolute willies. And maybe it's because the only good sense I have is my nose. But there's no way I think to myself, even at the beginning of the day before whatever, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go, tailgate, yada, yada, yada. Ooh, man, hope to hook up with somebody at the game. Like,
When you're in college, that's a very easy thing.
99.9% sure my man was not in college.
I know he wasn't. Yes, I know he wasn't.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't in college.
But he's probably like, "This is my best opportunity."
So at what point is hygiene out the window?
Dude, third beer.
Wow, that's tough.
Third beer
gives me the willies
because you'll just keep drinking, and then all of a sudden. It's just like, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
These guys are probably like, I'll shower in the morning.
I mean, you have to just be foul. Like, it wasn't a morning game, bro. We're at night and it's hot.
It actually wasn't too bad last night, but
it's
it was
relative, man.
It was still hot enough.
Even if it's 80.
Yes.
Okay.
They're hot.
Doesn't have to be 92. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not for you, huh?
No.
You're not going to games just when you were living the single life to hit on chicks.
At no point in my life. I can't
Well,
think.
I hope not at this point in your life.
I can't think back. I can't think back to. But again, some of it's just my personality.
Mm-hmm. So I was talking. I was down by the dugout yesterday, LSU side, and I was talking to Sasha, and we were talking about this situation. Because my buddy who was cutting highlights in LA for
I almost said
Center,
our Sasha as if we know another one.
Right. Yeah, my buddy cuts highlights for Sports Center in LA.
Yeah.
And he was watching the game. That was his duty that day. And he goes, "Hey, you won't run on the field." That's what he said, texted me. And I'm like, well, I don't want to end up like that one older lady that did that after the Wake Forest game. And I was just I was talking to her, Sasha, and I go, "What's the benefit of running on a field?"
I don't know, but Shane, we need to ask Sasha what happened to our girl that has the life. So a couple of years ago, there's a girl with a lifetime ban.
Really?
Yeah, I think she went to Millard West. Maybe. Do you remember that?
She
Shane?
ran on the field.
I do remember that.
Oh yeah, she lost her ever-loving mind.
Like a high school girl.
So had she just left high school, or she was in high school? But I'm pretty sure, like, there was video. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on the fly. Because I remember wondering, like, okay, how are you going to recognize this girl? Like, let's say she wanted to come back in 5 years, which maybe would be about now. Like, how would you know?
Yeah. Because you're not scanning IDs when you go in.
Like, she jumped on, like, by the dugout and just, like, took off. Like, yeah, in game.
Wow. Yeah, so I was asking
maybe
Sasha
you get
about this
maybe
story.
you get flagged if you're trying to buy a
Wait,
ticket.
get what?
Flagged if you're trying to buy a ticket.
Flagged.
My voice has been gone since the weekend too.
Stop.
That's not a voice thing. That's just a pronunciation.
My
thing.
voice is. I mean, you can tell, but maybe you get flagged.
Nice.
My mom is so cool. She said,
trying to buy a ticket.
She said, "Good morning." You don't sound
Maybe.
like you feel good.
But what if you went with a friend that bought 2 tickets?
Well, and
Take care of yourself.
then you end up getting married. You change your name, all that kind of stuff. I mean,
married?
And
Oh, yes, married.
That's probably flagged too.
It's okay.
So I was talking to Sasha, and the cop was standing next to me that arrested her,
Mhm.
or like went onto the field and got her. And I'm like, "Hey, so what's like the jail time for something like that?"
Do they
Like,
even do the paperwork?
So they took her in, and he's like, "Well, she got 2 offenses. Is that the word I want?"
Probably criminal trespassing and criminal mischief. Maybe?
Right. So she had 2 things on her so-called record. She has to go to court for them. And he's like, "But to be quite honest with you, like, I doubt there's jail time. It's probably just a fine.
Yeah.
And then the NCAA will do something to, I don't know, prevent that from
I don't know.
happening in the
Would you want the
future."
follow-up?
I would want to know, like, what you get for something like that. Because
So if you're the NCAA, do you want to know what like Jenna
Maybe
Schwartz
community
did?
service.
Are you trying to like
well,
make
if you're
sure you
the
hunt down Jenna Schwartz like the next 3 years?
Well, if you're in the NCAA and you're trying to hand down a ban like was handed down to the Millard West girl, then I'd say yes, I'd want to know. But I don't know how like intact a ban would be. Like, can you really
I know,
not
right?
get away with it?
First and foremost, if she wasn't Millard West, I apologize to Millard West High School. But I think she was Millard West. I don't want to. I don't want to.
You don't want to identify, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would own it. Let's say she went to West Side.
But yeah, he's like, she'll probably just plead it down to a fine, and then she'll have to go to court. And I'm like, man, that seems like a lot of headache for such a. What do you get by going over and trying to hug Paul Skeens?
I don't know. A brush with greatness. Jordan is over here trying to tell me he should be number 1 overall, hands down.
Skeens?
Yeah.
That's what a lot of mock drafts are having now, which is crazy to think about, that one College World Series can change that, because 2 weeks ago it was Dylan Cruz.
I know.
And now it's Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz. And granted, he was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But was it a little weird to you that Skeens got most outstanding player and he didn't even pitch in the CWS finals?
No.
That was weird to me.
And your parting words to me when I called you, Skeens is pitching.
I know. Well,
I was like,
before I knew.
And I was like, no, I believe you. Like I would have operated under that. And even if it was a swan song, you know, but you know, once they showed him warming up with the softball and his bands and he was down getting loose, I was like, oh man, this place will lose their ever loving mind if he takes the bump.
LSU had to put a towel down over where the camera could peek in behind the dugout because he started getting loose. They didn't want people in the broadcast to know.
Hold that thought.
Shane, are you going to be okay back there? I love how you took off your headset
right now.
to ask him.
Gonna be all right?
It's like coughing on. I'm like, we got a lot of equipment. Is there a cough button?
Yeah, the cough button was on.
I just want to make sure
the cough button was on for him.
Yeah, man.
I told you my voice was going away.
Hey, so Jamie hit the nail on the head. He's right. So we're talking about the young lady. She put it on social media before she did it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this reminds me of that guy that ran on the field during the Super Bowl because there was a bet on a book that said, will there be somebody that runs it? And he was the one that was in collusion with somebody that placed a $250K bet or whatever.
That's why
and then they posted it on social media after saying like, hey, we did it. Well, of course the sports book's going to see that and void it, and then you're going to go to jail.
Yeah. Well,
is that fraud?
I don't know.
It's your own question.
Yeah, stop asking that question, Eric. Dude, that sprinkler head is struggling. You should have never brought that to my attention. It's
every
like
time you'll look that direction, you'll be like, "Oh, there it is." That little guy just.
Hey, before we continue to stick to sports, I have one more sprinkler question. Somebody in our comment section or on Twitter, do I want the sprinkler system on 24-hour or 12?
Somebody can answer that call.
That's all I want to know.
Somebody can answer.
Like, why does this thing come on twice a day? I assume that's 12, but I'm not good. Are they talking military time? I wish I was smart.
And the last thing of college baseball for the first hour. Spencer Schwellenbach selected to the 2023 Futures game.
Yeah, let's go, Schwelly.
So, fourth Husker in program history to play in that
him
game.
and your boy, Matt Holiday, son. Holiday.
We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Strong as well.
The 1-1 rocket shot to right field. This baby is gone.
Let's go.
Braden Joubert with the smash, the flip, and a 2-run bomb. Makes it 18-4 LSU. Hey now.
Congrats once again to the LSU Tigers. In the midst of that game last night, there were a couple of recruiting notes. We talked a little bit yesterday.
Yeah,
we talked actually a lot yesterday about recruiting and your questions. And then all of a sudden, kind of webbed into my Twitter timeline, I'm seeing Kewan Lacey commit.
Yeah,
and that was a favorite for a lot of people.
So this is a thing, though, because it's funny. He's a 33 star, but he had good offers.
Mm-hmm.
So we like him.
We
don't know why we like him. We just like him compared to the offers that he's got.
And I'm like, because he's gritty.
We are so weird as a fan. Like, we don't even know what we're watching. It's just like,
right, because all you see is the huddle tape.
Well, and conversely, if a guy doesn't have good offers,
it's like, oh no.
But then we offer him, then it's like we like him.
And they could still be a 3-star.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, fans going fan. I try not to be too in the fields.
It's easy to like a guy that can run as fast as he does, dual sport athlete in football and track.
Yeah.
And then also when you do watch his tape and you just see how he runs, he's just that guy. He's a grinder. He's very gritty.
It's a weird body type for that alleged top end speed. And I say alleged because I get what happens on the track, but as I've coached and seen, not everybody always plays that fast. But you know what? Because
it is funny how you took notice to the offers thing, though, because I didn't think about that until you just brought it up.
Well, I mean, like I said, like you're in this world day in, day out. It's like, okay, or I just had this conversation with about two of the aforementioned the other day. One was to validate, one was to vindicate, and they were comparing Hall to McMorris, even though they both were on the same team. And I'm like, man, you guys will find any way just to be like negative, right? Like, what difference does it make how you got there? You just need an opportunity. We say this in the draft, right? All you need is one team to. It's just a conversation. I'm like, and it's caused me to. I don't want to make light of this word. And okay, I won't use depression. Antisocial. It's caused me to become very antisocial, right? Where it's like I'm so over what's going on. Like I don't even want to be around it. Like I can't wait to get back home. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just such foolishness, and it's not even like a recruiting thing. It's like it's a people thing. Because sometimes always people think, oh man, I want to know. Knowledge is power. Yeah, to some degree, that's true, right? But when you know a lot of different things, and then you kind of pit it against what you actually see happen,
it may sway your feelings.
And sometimes it's like it's depressing or disappointing, right? And so I think at some point, whether this is a high school coach to his players, whether it's a coach to a fan base, whether it's like coaching staff to coaching staff, like at some point you have to get to the point. This is like my DB health tip, mental health tip. Sometimes you just have to rest in the fact that you're doing the best that you can, and it's not your job to convince people otherwise. That's just not your burden. It's just not your burden to bear, right? Like I can put it out there, I can try to embody it, we can try to preach it. If you don't believe it, or your mind goes someplace else, or whatever, go do you. Right? Like I don't want to have. I'm not owning that. Like Tim Miles said to the great Dirk Chatelain, don't put that crap on me.
Don't put that crap on me.
That's your own stuff. And I think Coach Rule has to be like that with his recruiting. I mean, they get the DB out of Colorado. And everybody, that's a reach, and it's only Wyoming, and this, that, and the other, and or this guy doesn't get his ranking until after he says yes, and but then conversely with like Lacey, it's like same kind of ranking, a couple of different offers. We don't even know, just hypothetically, whether he could have said yes to those schools or not. But it's good for us to have it be portrayed that way because it's a feather in the cap, right? It's just like, and so at some point you just have to let all that stuff go. That's why, during, Benning Bites yesterday, I was saying with Coach Rule, and I ask people that are surrounded with other staffs, about, fan bases and the level of belief and how the media handles. And I was using Leipold and Kleiman as an example, just because it was the area I was in. Because I think with Drink, I definitely have a good idea just because that staff has been around West Side so much. And I think with you, closer to where you're at, with Drink, it's, well, we know he's a good recruiter, not sure he can coach. With Leipold and Kleiman, it's, man,
we know they can coach.
Team development all the way, we trust. Right? So do you want to be the fan base that thinks you're getting good players on paper, but they may not pan out? Or do you want to be the fan base that's like, I don't know about our star rankings, but, man, our guys can coach? Because I think Rule's done a little bit of both, and we're still not sure which we like. He's been the developer guy. He's had – I saw – who read this to me? Was it Micah or Caleb? One of them read to me yesterday. Somebody said on Twitter, and I was in the kitchen, so I didn't see it. Like, Coach Rule is on the verge of signing the lowest ranked stars class since 2015 or 2016, because I think it's like an 86 average or something like that. And I don't know if this is pre or post or dependent on what Carter Nelson does, but and the guy was like, and we're celebrating this. And I'm just like, I just was pitting that immediately, like whether I disagree or agree, I just was pitting it against the sentiment of the fan bases that I just spent time around when I travel. And I'm just like, man, nobody can eat their own like we do.
Are we celebrating or are we just trusting?
See, that's my thing, right? Like, why does your glass have to be half empty? Like, why can't it just be half full? So that's why I was saying on the bites yesterday, it's like, I don't know, man. He hasn't given me any reason to not trust what he's doing. So why I would be having to make a conscious effort
that's like
to be negative the other way.
That's like if you're in a relationship with a girl and this girl has been cheated on in the past, so she puts that on you because if she's thinking you're going to cheat,
that's not your burden. That's not your burden.
Exactly. I didn't do anything.
You try to explain that to people all the time, and they just don't, because the mind is a powerful thing to waste. And when you're dealing with people that they just invent problems like they haven't even happened yet. Like it's, well, it could be this, and it looks like this, and has any of that happened yet? But we write it off as just human nature. Oh, that's just human nature, right? Well, it doesn't have to be. Like
it's easy to grab onto the low hanging fruit.
You have options. You know what I mean? So it's just weird how, like, we pick and choose. We could have the same set of data, same situations, but depending on what we want the desired outcome to be, it's like we make that happen. And I always try to tell people, you always want to be like a good detective or a good police officer. You don't want to start out with too many preconceived notions, because all the clues that you find will be to validate what it is that you already think. It will
fog your judgment.
Right? Like, it's just too hard for people to separate those two things, which is why I always talk about in education, start with like the blank slate theory. Like when you meet a kid, young lady, young man, not about what they look like. It's not about what where they come from. Just start like right there, just right here. Let me meet you right where you're at. Then I'll figure it out.
Right there.
Which is why I don't listen when, oh, you like such and such. He's not very good, or he did. Let me figure that out for myself. Right? Like, I always go back and forth with teachers in classrooms. Like, do you want the case? Do you want the case files? Like, do you really want to read? And some teachers are like, yeah, I want to know, if at this point of the day, or heightened sense of awareness to this, or, make sure that they have breakfast. Some of those things I want to know, but some other teachers are like, nope, I want to judge it on my own. But the whole trust thing and the star rankings and this, that, and the other, because we become a product of what we hear. So now we're looking for certain measurables. If those measurables meet, we trust, right? Then the other half will be, well, why isn't anybody else seeing what they saw? Like we saw Guthrie, he said this was the first big time program where a coach has shown interest in me.
And that's not the first recruit to say that.
No, that's been like the third or the fourth. So if your glass is half full, it's, oh man, I trust his eye. If your glass is half empty, it's, what are we doing? You can compromise, right? It can just be what it is. You just take the information and do with it what you will, and then see how it plays out. It doesn't have to be either of the two aforementioned things. It could just be like, you just let it play out. You don't have to have an immediate response or thought to it, right? Because in reality, you don't know. You really don't. You really don't know. And I think the media does a good job, or can do a better job with that. I think the fan base can do a better job with that. Like, you don't have to pick a side on the narrative. You can just consume the information.
Right.
But I don't know how cool that is, right? But I always try to, I talk to people about this all the time. Just because somebody said something bad about you, or you don't like what they've done to you once or twice or three times, doesn't mean that person doesn't have any value. Like, I always give the example of people that have written things about our team or me or something that I didn't like. Doesn't mean that anything else that they say going forward is not going to have any merit, right? I didn't always agree with what President Trump said, but there are some policies that he was putting in place fiscally. I'm like, you know what? Yep. I'm all in. I agree. I don't love everything Charles Barkley says, and I don't really like Charles Barkley, but there are some things that Charles Barkley says. I'm like, yep. I really, really like that. Dr. Umar, there's some things where I'm like, God, this guy's nuts. But then I'm like, there's some other things that he says, you know what? I really like that. Like, I just think.
Well, it's okay to come in with perspective and instead of just.
But it doesn't have to stymie your growth. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's it. So you something you said at the very beginning, like, doesn't matter how you got there. Like you got there. Well, in the case of like personality and line of thinking, I feel like we're kind of on the same page with that a lot, with like, okay, we can look at the perspective and think like, all right, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. And both a glass half full, glass half empty.
It's like
cases,
willing
right?
to let it play out.
But in a lot of cases, when you're talking about like just things you see and how people react, it's a situation of they're so used to things happening a certain way. So until it happens the other way, they'll always fall back on this. And I see that a lot in a lot of situations. Like, if you constantly see something over and over the last 5 years, if you thought recruiting in Nebraska was horrific because they didn't do enough with in-state guys, and then you come in under Matt Rule, and if you think he should hit 15 every year, 15 in-state guys, and he's only hitting 7, well, you're like, this is ridiculous. Here we go again, like this, that, and the other. But instead of looking at it from the other side of saying, well, he got 6 the first year, he got 8 the second year, he went back down to 7, but he just got 10. Like, no, he never hit 15 for you, so you're stuck on that judgment. And, that's just kind of what I see a lot, because you're just convinced of one thing. And unless they hit your cap, you'll never change your mind.
It's, we got into the knockdown. It wasn't a knockdown drag out, but the whole understanding that stars matter. And unequivocally, they do once you reach a certain point. What I think you're trying to negotiate as a staff when you haven't won is at what point can you start keeping track of that? Because you have to get there first. And you know what I mean? It's like you don't just magically roll out of the rack and start grabbing 5 stars. And the funny thing is he doesn't get Coach Rule, he's not getting enough credit for telling you exactly what he thought from the jump. We have to give young people a reason to come here. We need to win. It has been so toxic that ... So if you just take that at face value for what it is, like he's telling you how to set your expectation level, and they understand that they'll have to do the rest.
Yeah, and they also know that if it doesn't work, they'll have to be the ones that readjust to make it work.
No question. No question.
Don't believe for a second that this staff is going to, for the next 8 years, do the exact same thing if it doesn't work.
And you know what's funny? And I've told this story a handful of times before. We talked to Coach Mack, and I know, here we go. Oh, you just love Coach Mack. You just love Coach Mack. There's some principles that I think
there's a lot to like about Coach Mack.
So, and he's got some non-negotiables, right? Which I think I see down in Lincoln, where I asked him about the move to the Big East, going from the MOVO to the Big East. And he said, well, I need some time. I want to put together some data. We need to be in this conference a little bit where I see how big the guards are, or what the wingspan of the wings are, or how the bigs like to play. And we'll adjust accordingly, because I was asking him about the recruiting portfolio. And he said there are a certain non-negotiables you have to have, though, regardless of how any of that plays out. You have to have a certain skill level, and you have to have a certain level of basketball IQ, because those are two things that this program covets. And everybody was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's
everybody.
That's cool, because keep in mind, my track record is to have seen so many coaches try it so many ways. I saw one coach, man, he wanted to star grab, wasn't really into like individual personal development. That was probably closer to Callahan. Then Bo had kind of the leftovers from the Callahan regime with a good scheme, really good with his players, but didn't have the recruiting chops. Then, to sustain. Then, Coach Riley was kind of the holdover in between, tried to round peg, square hole, mesh some things, didn't have enough resolve to stand his ground, even though I still don't know if that would have worked out or not. Just didn't have enough. It's too easy going with whatever was going on, right? Well, this feels right. Not enough conviction. For us was just the opposite of, he's kind of a combination of Bo and Callahan, where he wanted the stars and was kind of big into measurables, didn't have the staying power or the work ethic to have it come to fruition over time, right? Because he was so insecure. It was like, this didn't work this time. I got to change it, man. People are talking. I got to change it. People are talking. I got to change it. Get this guy out. Now you finally have a guy that maybe is kind of, and I don't know, but what I'm telling you, if you look at personality traits, the ability to cast a vision, check. Experience, check. Conviction, check. We'll see how much he's adapted from Temple to Waco to Charlotte to back here. That's the part that we don't know. But everything else, I mean, what are we like? What's the issue so far?
There shouldn't be a worry.
Like, what's the issue so far?
There shouldn't be a worry. Not there. There's not one
That's
thing.
just kind of how I'm looking at it in a nutshell.
What's one thing that he's given you to worry about? And that's just kind of just.
And I'm not saying like, listen,
maybe
I'm
rhetorical.
not saying he's getting out. It's going to be all rainbows and butterflies. I'm just saying, like, if you're looking at benchmarks, how many times? So do you think all these players or coaches of these players that are being recruited use the word adult? How many times have we heard the word adult referenced in some of these write-ups? Or when people are evaluating the program? I'll tell you 2 schools in particular that are recruiting against Nebraska that said, oh, man, hiring that guy kind of has our attention because we believe that this, and they gave me a couple of adjectives, are all that Nebraska was missing. I think he has those. Now, we'll see how he can adjust back to the college game. But if you're just going to pencil in what we think was missing, okay, he has our attention.
And if you look at Lacey and you look at all the offers that he had and you're like, good, this is a great get for Nebraska, listen to this line. This is from Brian Christopherson's article on 24/7 Sports. This is the last day, and this is when I was in the office with Coach Rule. I looked at my mom and I looked at my papa, and they were both shaking their head, yes. When coach can have conviction not only with the player, but with the family, then you know that he's not just speaking to speak, and it only pertains to kids that range from 18 to 22.
Wow.
No, it's 18 to 65 or whatever. Like, no matter what, he will not change his words to talk to a young person than he would talk to a player's parents.
My buddy AC, right? Legal genius, right? Seems pretty bright. I told you the Sunday we went there. We went there for a couple of different things. None of it actually happened. Right? You're in the office probably a couple hours, and we're walking out after we did some other things. And I said, hey, I know that took a whole different direction. I said, we were just captivated. We ended up watching Baylor. It just took a way different direction. And he looked at me and he's like, I knew 10 minutes in, the conversations we wanted to have weren't necessary. I just sat back and listened. I'm like, it's not just me.
And you're nodding your head because you believe it.
It's not just me.
You believe it.
So either he just has, God's gift, like the silver tongue, or there's some actual merit. And I know one thing, I'm willing to sit back and wait and see
and without
which
wins,
it is.
Without wins, what do you need to hold on to going in? You need to hold on to belief.
Hope.
And if you're a player or if you're a parent, nod your head with us. Because if you stay in that mindset, more likely than not, it'll carry you through to a good result. We'll take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes.
I saw tonight happen before it happened.
And he hit him on the
arm. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
And he hit him on the arm. Second time has been hit. That brings in a run, and this game is tied.
Well, now that the CWS is over, what are your plans for getting your baseball fix as the weeks go on? Well, maybe you check out the Omaha Storm Chasers this week. They'll be back in action on Wednesday. They then play Thursday, Friday, and they will face off against the Iowa Cubs. Wednesday is winning Wednesday. I don't know. I hope we're not whining.
Hey, that's the off-air convo.
You
spoke it into existence. It was on your brain.
Yeah, maybe it was the subconscious going through.
I like that.
But then it's also career day on Wednesday. So a dedicated day to learning about future careers. You can walk on the concourse and talk to local experts in their fields and learn about different career paths, which I always was a fan of career days, especially in college. We would have some, like in the big rec center, there'll be like, places lined up and down. And normally nothing ever came out of it unless you wanted like a job in a fast food restaurant, or if it was just something short. Like you never got a long-term position out of career days, but I love making connections with people and just having the chance to even just get a business card from somebody at any point in my life, I'm like, man, I want to make a career change, or, I need a new start somewhere. It's like, boom. If I wanted to move back to this place, I probably have a business card of somebody that could either help me or give me direction. So I was always a fan of career days growing up, and I just would push anybody, high school, whether you're in college, locally, even if you don't want to go to the baseball game, just go check out the career day and just see what's up, because you never know who you'll run into. I remember I had a story when I was a junior in college. I went to this broadcasting seminar 2 weeks, and they just cycled through with people in the industry. And I went home after that and got a phone call from somebody I just met there. We were just talking at the bar and social hour afterward. And he goes, "Hey, I think you'd be really good for this position. There's a job in Carrollton that's under our umbrella. It's Alpha Media, which I think is a familiar name to the Midwest. And they said, we have this position for you." And I went to it. It was in Carrollton, Missouri. Do you know where that is? It's kind of close to Northwest Missouri State, but it's a very small town. I probably wouldn't have survived. I'm not much of a small town guy, but it was the first real job I got offered. And it was off of a seminar, or technically a career day. So pretty cool that
I wonder what I this is totally not sports related, but I wonder what I would have done had I been exposed to that more often as a high schooler, or because sometimes there's so many things that go on now with young people and what they're capable of doing, and pay coming out of high school that are so foreign to me. And it's different. It's just a different era, right? I mean, communication was different. The ease in which you could communicate is different. Technology is different. And it wasn't near as diverse as it is now. Not just black to white, Asian, Indian, whatever. I'm male to female. So I really only knew, I feel like I only really knew what I could see people around me doing, which is why I always felt like it was so important to get a visual. If I want to be successful, I wanted to see people that look like me successful, right? It wasn't because now it's like, shoot, kind of to bring it back to recruiting. I remember Nebraska made such a heyday on players and folks in different parts of the country, because what Nebraska was at the time was so unique compared to where they were. So you could go to Bessemer, Alabama. You could go to Biloxi. You could go to La Plata, Maryland. You could go to, East St. Louis.
Go anywhere.
And you could say, hey, listen, this is what we provide. This is who we are. This is when we're on television. This is the academics. These are the All-Americans. And all of that was so new. It's like they could just cherry pick.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, here's this Prop 48 thing. Hey, here's this partial education. Hey, we can get you qualified. Hey, there are lots of people that look like you. Listen, so they could do all that now. And now, 25 years removed, everybody's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not near as novel, especially with the whole TV thing and partial qualifiers and stuff like that. But it's sad to say, for job fairs, you're talking to a guy that went to school for a major that the university didn't even have.
What's your major?
I wanted to be a marine biologist. So I'm in general studies. My first
sharks.
And back then it was either sharks or killer whales. Those were my jam, right? So I just wanted to be in the water where I could see.
You're not getting much marine life in Nebraska.
Man, listen, to see my academic advisors laugh at me, because I could take general ed my first year. And I remember he asked me, he's like, well, what else do you love? And I was like, I don't know. Kids, I guess. I like young people. Well, how about education? I'm like, man, my dad does that. This is what I'm thinking in my head. I was like, I don't know.
Kind of wanted to paint your own path.
Yeah. But he goes, well, and I go, well, what all could I do with it? He says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be around kids. I said, I want my own group home. Right. That was kind of my thing. So I originally went to school to get into education so I could be certified to run my own little mini boys town. That was the whole idea. of why I went to school. But it wasn't because like I'd seen like all these other options. Like I was clueless. Like I go to Lincoln for marine biology. Like, the dude's chuckling. Like I can just remember he had his coat. He had on like the little tight checks. It was like tweed. Do they even make tweed suits anymore? I don't know. He's got his legs crossed, and he's just like
in the wrong place.
We don't have that here. I just was like, and I just remember being stuck for like 20 minutes in this office. Like I have to declare. Like, and I remember saying to myself, well, where do most of my classes apply towards? Because I certainly wanted to stay on course. Because, I mean, L-Ed, and I ended up getting certified in special ed. I think it's K-8. It was like 134 hours. I'm like, hey, man, I need for these things that I've already done to be applicable to that.
Can we slow this down?
I'm not trying to be here forever.
Yeah, like let's shave some
of these guys are getting out of here like 120. So I don't know. I don't. It's just weird how I think of the opportunities that are presented versus it's the same thing we're seeing happening in recruiting. And I'm just gonna go back to Guthrie saying is the first person to pay attention, the first big time person to pay attention to me.
So was that T.O. for you?
No, I didn't really know T.O. like that.
I thought, whoa.
Like he didn't. The two things that I remember about T.O. was my parents making it a big deal when he came to the house to kind of close the deal, and then him telling me that I was taking too long. He didn't say you're taking too long, but he just was like, hey, where are we at here post the offer? Because I was still delusional thinking I could hold out for baseball. And he's like, it don't work like that.
It was just one lick.
And they were back. That was back when they were taking big classes. I guarantee you, that 92 class probably had 30 guys. Oh, yeah. A couple stud running back. Like, I didn't pay attention to any of that because I didn't know.
Now, were all of your offers close to Nebraska, or did you have
Colorado,
say?
Illinois,
And this may be,
yeah, they were regional.
Well, I was going to say you wanted to be a marine biologist,
but I didn't know that. Listen, I'm just telling you. Maybe this is more of a reflection of how naive I was, but I did not think about. The only thing I thought about, and I was a good student. National Honor Society, the whole nine.
So you didn't think about, you only thought about football or sports
where I could play both sports. That was like number one. It wasn't proximity to home. It was like, where could I always wanted to go to, I grew up loving Nebraska, but as long as I could play both sports, I was good. That's all I knew.
Yeah, I just was curious if almost Miami was on your mind.
It's almost it's like I look back at it now, and it's kind of embarrassing. Like I didn't, and maybe that's
having a dream.
Maybe that explains kind of my laissez-faire parental approach.
Never, ever.
You know what I mean?
Apologize for having a dream.
It kind of. I think that kind of is like.
Don't be embarrassed.
Because that's how I was, right? Because I didn't know anything.
No, never be embarrassed about having a dream.
Kind of.
Ever.
Marine biologist in Lincoln, Nebraska.
No, I will never shut down somebody's dream. Steve Aschburner with us next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. We have the six-pack coming up at the top of the hour. Bob Nightengale joining us at 9:30. And to close out the show, we'll talk college baseball with Eric Sorenson. But before we do all that, let's go to the phone and talk to Steve Aschburner, senior writer at NBA.com, at AshNBA on Twitter, ASCH. Steve, good morning.
Hi, gentlemen. By the way, say hi to Bob Nightengale for me.
You got it.
I'm an old baseball writer in a previous life. So,
and I remember those days. I'm pretty sure that's a couple of savvy veterans we get. So it's going to be a good day for us.
Sounds good.
Steve, let's start with NBA free agency because I've been doing a lot of research on Houston, and I think they're in such a good spot with roughly $60 million in cap space. They already got Thompson and Whitmore, courtesy of the draft. But what pieces could you see them adding in order to really start building up a franchise again? Would it be spend it all in one place, like maybe bring back a guy like James Harden, or should they get multiple pieces that range from guys like Bruce Brown and Fred VanVleet and so forth?
Well, based on that choice, I like your latter scenario with guys like Bruce Brown and Fred VanVleet. I think that team needs a sort of an infrastructure of veteran influence and experience. They've got a ton of young talent. They played like an AAU team last year. To think that Ime Udoka was going to, is going to come in and be able to corral all of that, by himself. I do think they need presence in the locker room, on the bus, on the plane. in games on the court, and more than what they've had, and it needs to be sort of subtle by example, and even word and deed, but it needs to be legit. And I look at a one-stop shop like I guess James Harden is more. He's traditionally been more of a one-stop shop, if you ask me. That he's not the guy that gets that done. I look at Harden at this point. If he willingly leaves Philadelphia, which I think is his best shot to, check that championship ring box that's still vacant on his resume. If he willingly leaves that to sign with Houston, he's going there for his own reasons. And I don't know that really meshes with the Rockets. Now, I'm not in those locker rooms. I'm not sure what kind of a veteran voice he's been in Philadelphia or before that, Brooklyn, as far as helping out younger players. But to me, that move would sort of holler that James Harden is looking for an annuity at this point in his career, that maybe the championship ring, he's just sort of moved on emotionally or mentally from that as an overriding priority, and that he liked living and playing in Houston. He can get paid, and he can sort of ride out what's left of his career, pressure-free, almost a retirement before he retires. And that move would just not make a lot of sense to me for the other Rockets and for the organization and for the Houston fans. It might be great for James. The idea of kicking back late in your career and not having too much pressure or expectations, a lot of people might like that. And then you retire when you decide to retire. The real world often isn't that way. And frankly, for people that really care about winning in the NBA, it's not that way.
Right on the heels. I appreciate the softball for two different reasons. And I want to talk winning. Which one of these two, if you want to win, you're a head coach, you want to win. Winning is important. So you're trying to surround yourself with winners. Who needs the more specific or structured environment? Damian Lillard or Kyrie Irving? You want to win, Steve.
I don't know how to put those guys into a conversation on winning.
It's weird, isn't it? Right? Because they're on this coveted list, and I'm like, are either one of those? Lillard strikes me as the type of guy, Steve, and I don't know, right? He strikes me as the type of guy that doesn't want the pressure of being scrutinized, right? Like, he's kind of always said the right things, and he's been the loyal guy, but he kind of has it on easy street. Kyrie comes with such specifics. I don't ever know if winning is even important to him. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of different reasons, but it's getting me the same outcome.
Look at what we're talking about already. I think this free agent class, you've got no all-NBA caliber players. At their best, they've been that, but nobody most recently has been all-NBA. And there's flaws and questions with almost everybody that's hitting the market this summer. Certainly if they're considered to be, a top tier kind of a free agent. I covered Kevin Garnett his entire run in Minnesota, and what we're finding with Damian Lillard, to me, is reminiscent of Garnett before he was persuaded to accept the trade to Boston. He wanted to stay put. He truly did like the market and the fans and the idea of winning as much as he could in that uniform, but they had topped out. They went to 8 straight playoffs with him. They only got out of the first round once. They got eliminated in the Western Conference Finals once. I think Lillard got to a Western Conference Finals and got swept by Golden State. To me, it's very similar. And it's like, well, Lillard sort of sold his opportunity to win, not consciously and not overtly, but let's face it, he took, a huge amount of money with the knowledge it was coming from Portland. where it hadn't worked out, where it might work out, but there was no assurance that they would certainly be able to build a team around him, a championship team around him. And so I'm not going to feel bad for Damian Lillard. He made that decision. Now, if he had taken less money, did he have any confidence that what he left on the table would be used, to bring in the best possible talent? No. I mean, I get that part, but sometimes the idea of having it all ways is it's a little much for fans to take too. I would like to see him just stay in Portland and keep trying, be the little engine that could, or little engine that might, and get as deep as he can. And if they could add some pieces, I mean, Joe Cronin went on the record saying that they are, the general manager there, that they are committed to building a winner around Damian Lillard. So, okay, now show us. The notion that he would go land somewhere else, I don't know. I saw on Twitter this morning some recollection about Reggie Miller, where when he had a chance to leave, it sort of dawned on him that, if I win somewhere else, if I don't have a Pacers jersey on, it's going to feel odd. It's not going to feel right. And I think Lillard is so identified with that franchise at this stage that for him to go somewhere else and, hey, you want a ring? It's like, okay, but what, you didn't do what you wanted to do. You didn't carry that team, and maybe it was an impossible lift. Maybe it won't happen, but I don't know. And you know what? In return for this opinion of mine, I am willing to consider Damian Lillard. Look, he's already made the top 75 players of all time list, right? So it's not going to hold him back from being seen as one of the great, guards in NBA history, whether he does or doesn't have a ring. There's no stigma. There's no dark cloud that needs to be over his career. We don't have to automatically invoke him with Patrick Ewing and Charles Barkley and John Stockton. Those are all great players. And this notion that, well, he didn't have that ring that one year. I mean, if he goes and he gets it with a super team, even though he's still a viable star. I mean, it's not like he'd be riding their jersey tails, but say he goes to Miami, I mean, okay, he would enjoy that. I wouldn't look at Damian Lillard, with any more regard or respect than I do already.
If you're Draymond Green, I guess the fan base is Golden State getting the sense that Draymond Green wants out of Golden State, because Golden State seems like they won him. He opts out, but how much more money could he command, on the open market? And what kind of coach does he have to play with?
Yeah, well, it's what coach he has to play with. It's also what sort of teammates he has to play with. I don't think Draymond is a plug and play kind of a guy. I think he needs, proper teammates. He needs guys around him. He needs to have the ball in his hands. So if you have Chris Paul with Golden State, I think that there's a little bit of a conflict there in terms of how the offense gets run. I mean, Green, is able to, kind of be a point forward, point center. So that to me, fit is an issue, even though you got great minds there, both on the court and on the side, to work things out. I do think Golden State would be best to create the situation where Draymond would have to leave to make more money. I don't think they should overextend. I think they should sync him up to whatever they consider this championship winning window to be. And then they may confidently say, we're always going to be a contender. And that will outlast Steph and Clay and Draymond, Wiggins. But let's be honest. I mean, it's a matter of a couple more years with this crew, then they have to flip it over. That's how Draymond's contract should run.
Steve, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for the astute takes. We will talk again soon.
All right. Say hi to Bob for us.
Hey, we will.
Appreciate it, Steve. Thanks.
It's in the vault. Steve Aschburner, senior writer at NBA.com, at Ash, ASCH, NBA on Twitter. When we come back, we will change gears to the Sports Six-Pack presented by Zipline Brewing, and then we will do a couple of interviews to close out the show. Stick around. More CNC after the break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Time now for the Sports Six Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
It's that time. Top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, 590 ESPN Radio here in Omaha. We are live on Twitter, live on YouTube, the Hail Varsity Radio and Hurrdat Sports YouTube pages, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Also live on KFOR in Lincoln for this hour as well. We're happy to have all of you joining us, 888-638-4876, if you'd like to get involved at any point. We're doing the Sports Six Pack presented by Zipline Brewing. Zipline had the downtown Omaha tap room bumping over the course of the College World Series. People in and out. I was walking by there at least 5 times, a handful of times. Walked in there once, caught part of the game. Actually, more the pregame show before we went inside for the game. Oh, no, actually, I don't think we were there for like an inning before we walked into the stadium. We didn't want to stand in line. We just kind of wanted to drink.
Are your buddies
walk
still here?
right through. They are not. Everybody has since left.
Okay, so you'll probably get some sleep today finally.
I will be napping. Actually, I don't know. You know what's funny? I wake up in the morning and I'm like, today feels like a nap day. And then I get done with our show and I'm like, what's the point of napping? Like, I have stuff I need to get
I
done.
don't know how you sleep in the daytime.
Blackout curtains.
Yeah, I have those.
But remember, I asked you, do you ever go, like, take a nap? And you're like, I just don't go in my bedroom until
I don't.
night. I don't. So it makes sense why you wouldn't nap, because I couldn't nap on my couch. I got to be comfortable.
Today, but
Where do you have to be?
high school.
Hey, how was that, before we get to the six-pack, how was that little adventure you had on Friday before 7-on-7?
Oh, it was fine. It was only.
Did it go quick?
Yeah, it was like 12 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, like literally 12 minutes. I mean, it was a 70th,
Yeah.
70.
I held true to
birthday
my
party.
word. I didn't say a
it's
thing.
like,
I threw away
and
the key.
everybody knows, like, and I just showed. It's like, you know how I did it. I showed up, took a picture, bounced. Like, I was trying to get to work. My other job.
All right, Shane, let's do it.
Question number 1.
All right, I'll power through these for you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Hopefully I don't need a 9-pack to get through it.
Oh, Lord.
You magically have the ability to change the conference affiliation of 5 teams. They may not like it, but can't stop or undo it for at least a decade. Okay, so you can base these moves off competitive balance, geography, history, creating new matchups, favorite mascots, whatever floats your boat. Who do you move and why?
So we have to move 5 teams?
Mm-hmm.
Should we just say this is football?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you a swap.
Go ahead. You start.
Give me Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas State.
And move them into the Big Ten?
For Rutgers, Maryland, and Indiana.
Geographically, that would make a ton of sense. Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana.
For some reason, man, I want Iowa State, K-State, and Colorado. Maybe it's just me hearkening back to the Big 8 days, maybe.
Now, no one wants to move out of the SEC. But I would move Mizzou out of the SEC.
I wouldn't mind acquiring Mizzou. Put them back, not put them back, but move them to the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you brought them back to the Big 12, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Mizzou doesn't seem like an SEC team.
Andy doesn't seem like an SEC team.
They would be fun in football, but not in basketball.
What about moving? Oh, that would ruin the ACC. Now I'm trying to think of balance. What if I added somebody to the ACC? That could be better. Let's move Florida out of the SEC and put them in the ACC.
Oh, gotcha. For who?
Dropping out of the ACC is really the only teams I like in the ACC are Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina. Do you like Virginia and Virginia Tech? Virginia, maybe?
Doesn't float my boat, but
who would you remove out of the ACC?
I don't know. Like,
I just don't love Virginia football. They made me a decent amount of money.
Could you see Charlottesville in the SEC? Ooh. Maybe
Are they? Are
move Wake?
Wait a second. Hold on.
What?
Wait a second. Do they literally have to swap? Like, could I put Virginia somewhere else? Like, could I do like a 3-team trade?
This is why we don't get.
Could I do a 3-team trade?
Go ahead. Who's your third partner?
So if I moved Virginia,
who is your Kristaps Porzingis Washington Wizard Phoenix? Who's your third partner?
If I moved Virginia to
Shane, you're gonna need 9 beers. I need 9 beers
for this one.
Like, what are you doing?
I'm mapping it out in my head. Okay, so I took Florida and I moved them to the ACC. I took Virginia. Let's take Virginia Tech and move them to the Big 12.
Oh.
And let's move K-State to the SEC.
You talk about K-State in the SEC. Yeah, that fan base would be like, really? These yahoos are nuts. Go ahead, Shano.
Question number 2.
This is from Dewey in Omaha.
What's up, Dewey?
Yeah, what's up? Which Big Ten teams benefit and will struggle the most from the new scheduling format, and why?
I think Nebraska has their work cut out for them.
They do. I'm surprised Nebraska didn't have get more protected games. But, I mean, listen, you got Iowa. I felt like...
And Iowa's really their, like, only real rivalry as of late.
But listen, though. So, in my head, I think if Nebraska would have won more when they got to the Big Ten, Wisconsin would have protected them, too. Because I think Nebraska wanted Wisconsin. Wisconsin didn't want Nebraska. Just because I think they stopped seeing the benefit, especially now that Alvarez is gone, a couple years removed. Nebraska hasn't won a ton, but them not having as many protected games, I think, really kind of cost them a little bit in terms of their schedule. But who could be in trouble? Now, they're not talked about in a negative light much, but you better be careful with UCLA. Like, we've kind of anointed them as we lumped them in with USC. I said this a couple weeks ago about UCLA. We assume that they're going to be good, but I don't know. And travel logistically wise with the round, I mean, you get a couple of UCLA, Penn State, UCLA, Michigan, UCLA, Michigan State's. Like, you get, and not that Michigan is ridiculously far from Pasadena. I'm just saying what people underestimate with travel within the conference is wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing.
My head is still on that first question. If you're in an independent conference, can we just move them wherever?
No, because everybody would move Notre Dame. Even though they get kind of a quasi ACC.
So if you moved Notre Dame, would you have to replace them with
another independent?
Like to a team independent?
I don't know.
So like,
is there a conference with an odd number of teams that you'd want Notre Dame to land?
Why do I get the feeling that playing?
You want to put Notre Dame someplace in the Big 12 and move out one of the old AAC teams?
Why do I get the feeling that playing like board games with Andrew would be no
I know,
fun?
man.
Because he would change all the rules all the time.
He's a thinker.
He would think through and he'd go, "You're playing Monopoly."
And how are you going back to question number 1?
Yeah.
Because we're only on 2.
Who's going to benefit from the schedule difficulties in the Big Ten or the conference division realignment? Quietly could have a tough time, but they're kind of an afterthought because they haven't been good the last couple of years. I don't know. It may hit Northwestern hard too.
I think the West Coast teams will struggle the most just because they have to deal with time change and travel. And I think time change is easier going from the Midwest to the West Coast versus the West Coast to the Midwest. And the reason I say that is when you're taking a kid that's 18 to 22, they stay up later.
Is
So-
UCLA a big enough brand to withstand not playing in the region a ton?
And I think that could be it too.
SC is. UCLA doesn't strike me as that.
I think that could be a major factor too. How much are they traveling? At least the fan base, because with how passionate the fan bases are at the schools that are, already in the Big Ten, they'll travel. Like, they love their Big Ten football. They'll go wherever they need to go. And who's not going to want to in Nebraska when it's cold out? Who's not going to want to go to the West Coast and experience some warm weather?
Fans travel.
So I think the West Coast teams will struggle the most. Who will benefit the most from it? I'm kind of in wait-and-see mode with that. I don't know if there is a team right now that I could say is going to benefit the most.
Nebraska
from the
does.
schedule change.
Nebraska does need their destination place. They haven't had that since the last time they went to a bowl game.
Who quietly, I think, could benefit, and they're already kind of a national monster as SC. You get enough Ohio States, Michigan matchups at some point, and it's going to enhance their recruiting prowess, which is already pretty good, but it may be a little far-fetched.
Go ahead, Shane.
See what happens.
Question number 3.
All right, question 3. Gare Bear in Lincoln. Gare Bear. You guys never finished your conversation about Dylan Raiola. What's he accomplishing by changing schools?
I just think he's.
You are right. We didn't finish that.
I talked to Doug. Listen, I think a lot of it is logistics. I do. I think training, and don't underestimate. I mean, I'm not assuming that they were going to get the waiver on the transfer either in Arizona and back home. So I think there were a couple of things at play, and I just don't think, and it's not because it's Dom. He doesn't need a competitive advantage. He's going to Georgia as one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I think we're overvaluing the decision. I don't know what was going to happen with the transfer at his high school currently. I think it's easier to make the move. He has the means to make the move. I think they're getting the family acclimated. I mean, they're basically going cross country.
Does Dylan Raiola have friends? Like, that's just kind of what I think about when I.
He's such a family guy. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Like, he doesn't strike me as the type of kid that would be
like get attached to an area
because they've moved so much.
Right. And so if he doesn't have like super close friends that he wants to be around and see a lot, if he's just in it for his family and him, then I don't think moving and bouncing around is all that bad for somebody with a vision. But if he has friends, like, that's so hard on somebody to just constantly move away. So I'm just curious if his friends are the people that he just plays football with wherever he goes,
I just think
or if he actually has a core group of people.
Much closer to, I think, the desired destination, which is, I think, the only benefit. I don't think it has anything to do with high school competition. Doesn't really need it anymore, especially after the Elite 11 performance. And he's got his school picked out. He doesn't need the senior year. And he could sit out and be just fine.
Question number 4.
Stalling for time as I get the timer rolling here. And 2, 1, there we go. Okay.
Stalling for time.
Stalling
as
for
he
time.
announces it.
Well, I had to.
You could have just went like, I'm looking for the question.
Okay. Well, I was stalling for time because I didn't really want to read
What
this
question are we on?
We're on number 4.
Okay.
What storyline are you tired of seeing? Like I said, I didn't want to read this one. Arnez batting average tracker or anything, whatever this guy's name is.
What storyline are you more tired of
Across
seeing?
sports in general?
Well, this was
or just Major League Baseball.
Batting average
Arias,
tracker,
okay.
or any and everything Webinyana.
Webinar, yeah. Okay.
Is it just between those two?
Yes, but I'm okay with you changing the question up.
I'm over the Lillard talk. For sure.
Okay, so batting average or Lillard?
Lillard.
Webinyama or Lillard?
Wembanyama.
So I'm actually over the batting average talk over anything else.
Well,
just completely out.
So let me give you a little context. It's not going to happen, so I think it's idle time. I'm not invested.
See, and
He's not. I don't think he's going to hit 400.
And so for me, that's the problem. Is
Because
like,
you know
why,
he's not.
Why are they invested in it
Yeah.
if it's not going to end up happening? Like, that's just.
And it's still, we're not even to July yet.
We're not even at the All-Star break, and we're talking about this guy resting around 400. Don't get me wrong. It's cool to see somebody hit as much as he does, because in Major League Baseball, there's no chance that anybody could sit in college, high school baseball batting average numbers. There's no chance at that because of how many games you play. But why are we just beating this storyline every single Marlins game?
I think
you turn on SportsCenter and it's like, all right, let's watch all 4 at bats of Luis Arias. And
you and I like baseball more than most, so maybe we see it more. I don't know if everybody else gets it like that.
Like, that stuff I get tired of because it's going to be constant until he really drops. Like, Lillard, once he gets, like, traded and settled in, it will slow down. Kind of like when Brad Beal got traded. Like, it was hot for a week and then it slowed down. Ayton's been trending, but now he's staying. It's going to start slowing down.
At least for a while.
Wembanyama, now that he's out of the draft, he's on the team, he's doing things for him.
Robbie hit me with
I'm expecting that to slow down.
He hit me with a nice little potential. He said in some bizarro world he could see Draymond Green, Wembanyama, and Lillard in San Antonio. They have the space.
Draymond Green.
Yep.
Damian Lillard.
Yep.
And Vicky Wembanyama.
Yeah.
That would be a fun team to watch.
I'd
love to see him put the pieces together.
He's got me convinced. I said, we'll talk about it on the podcast tomorrow. I'm kind of. It's
cool with
interesting because they have so many draft picks, San Antonio, and Pop could handle Draymond.
That's what I was about to say. You have a coach that knows every personality in the book to be able to say, this is how we're going to do it.
Pop could handle Draymond.
Question number 5.
Cody and Lincoln, when recruiting, do you think there's ever a thing of being too early to the party? Not for the stance of offers, but from an official visit standpoint.
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes.
I don't think it's ever too early for offers, like he said, so I'm happy he clarified. But as from an official visit standpoint, I always think if you're last, you're in the best spot because you're fresh on the mind.
Now, here's the thing, though. You can reach a point where, when the chairs stop moving, you won't have a seat.
That is true.
So you have to have a good understanding of where the institution is with you.
Yes.
But yeah, I do think you can be too early.
But I also think that falls more on the programs more than the player more times than not. If you're like saying like, hey, come in for an official visit, come in. And they're like, okay, I'll come in for an official visit.
And we've seen the calendar move quite a bit the last couple of years, just with the degree of difficulty it is getting folks to travel in season, because it's tough for the schedules to work out. But Nebraska historically has been a school that's made its heyday on game days with official visits. So, maybe if Coach Rule can buck that trend and grow with the times where you start to experience more success in the summer, maybe you'll see that be a thing.
Question number 6.
That's a good question, by the way.
One of these times I'm going to read the question just like that.
Burping?
What is the dumbest play you've ever seen in Major League Baseball history? Like half-hammered.
Oh, I thought that was the question.
That is the question.
Oh, is that the question?
Yeah.
Oh, fudge. Well, it's kind of easy for me. It hits close to home. I did watch a pop fly bounce off of Matt Kemp's head in the outfield at Chavez Ravine. I mean, Canseco did it before Kemp, but it meant more when Kemp did it because I knew that was the Rihanna factor. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It was can of corn, lazy fly ball.
I don't know if there's anything more dumb than watching Marcell Ozuna scale a wall for a ball that landed on the warning track.
Yeah. So
and then get his cleat caught in the fencing.
I know it's kind of a niche sport and it has its own kind of following, but if you like sports and you watch a lot of sports, Ozuna comes across as a guy that would be very difficult to like
and cheer for.
Same thing, but yeah, he just. I don't know how his fan base responds. I
mean, even when he was in Miami with Yelich and
they had a core, didn't they?
Gosh, who am I forgetting? Who else was in that? Oh, Stanton.
Yeah.
When they had that outfield tandem, like that was insane. But still, nobody fawned over Ozuna. It was always Stanton, and then it was always Yelich.
Yeah. Yeah, they had
because the Cardinals wanted Yelich initially, and they're like, no, we're not going to trade him, and then. We trade for Ozuna. I say we. The Cardinals trade for Ozuna. And then they're like, we'll take offers now. And here, you can go to the Brewers.
Yeah.
Get up!
He just seems like a headache.
Well, I remember when he overslept one game and the joke going around Twitter.
He has some Cespedes to him, except Cespedes was at least kind of likable because he was easygoing.
And he could rake and win home run derbies. But they were joking around that Ozuna should have an alarm clock giveaway night at the.
Yeah, he'd be. So do you follow? You probably don't, but Cespedes Family Barbecue.
I do
on Twitter.
Oh yeah, because he's paired up with Stephen Shock, for the Shock Factory pod.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, Cespedes Barbecue is funny.
It is grand salami time.
Another good one is 11.7. The 11.7 podcast page.
Oh,
that's another funny one to
with
follow
the and that's basically the college scholarships for baseball, right? Is that where they get the 11.7?
Well, yes, but it's the podcast for Ben Upton, who we had on the show a while back.
We like Ben.
But cool. All right, Shane, thanks for the six-pack questions. You did well.
Shane, can you say Wembanyama?
Wembanyama. That was okay.
Ben Bem.
I'll give you an 8.
Flagged.
0.7. Pretty good score, Shane.
Wembanyama.
Say it again.
You called him Vicky.
Vicky.
Can we not do that again?
You don't like Icky Vicky?
Wow.
Who was the other guy? Arnaz?
Arise.
Azriel?
But I call him Arias because I like to sound out his name. Even though
why do you keep saying Arnaz? Where's the N?
Arnaz.
I said Azriel.
The cat?
Azriel.
Like Gargamel?
Yeah.
Wow. Shane, you're something else, man.
Wow. I'm
Wembanyama.
I almost got to shut down on air. I had to get my composure for a second.
Well,
it's all good, Shane. I'll say it to you off here.
Aschburner will get a shout out next with Bob Nightengale.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Happy to be joined now by Bob Nightengale, USA Today Sports MLB columnist at B Nightengale on Twitter. Bob, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, morning.
Hey, good to talk to you again, Bob. So earlier we talked to Steve Aschburner, and he wanted us to make sure that we told you hello and that he's thinking well of you. So we're passing that along as our kind of our fiduciary responsibility.
Thanks. Yeah, great guy. Thank you.
Yeah, don't say hello back there. Somebody have to call him.
And we're men of our word here, so we don't put us in a pickle.
Sounds good.
Bob,
great guy.
We are coming right off the College World Series, and I'll start here. You're the Pirates. Who are you drafting, Paul Skeens or Dylan Cruz?
I'll probably go Dylan Cruz, position player. I think, if you're Skeens, if you're a team, I wish you could trade in MLB, because I think he's a guy who could jump in any rotation right now and help a team down the stretch, get to the playoffs. But I think usually these teams go for the position player. They just always get worried about pitching and someone getting hurt.
So it's interesting. Like, we're trying to pick storylines and the best stories, and there's so many. Whether you think you can hit 400, the Orioles, what's going on with the Rangers, Corey Seager's comeback story, what the Diamondbacks are doing. If you had to start with something that you think can be sustained as we get towards the middle of August? Where's Bob Nightengale starting?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think the Reds are a great story, but I don't think it's sustainable. I really don't. I like the Luis Arraez story. I think that's sustainable. You know, I think he's going to hit 400. I don't, but I think he's got a chance to be flirting with 400, all year long. The guy hit wherever he was in the minor leagues. Obviously, won the bank trial last year with the Twins. I think we're kind of ignoring the story. I love the fact, what he's doing. Just because, I'm talking about, 1941. I don't think we're paying nearly enough attention to what this guy does.
Bob, that's crazy because I just got done saying how I think it's ridiculous that we are following along with this storyline because it just seems unfathomable that something like this could happen.
I mean, why not? I mean, I remember when I was covering the Padres for a few years, used to talk to Tony Gwynn about that. And Gwynn says, well, I don't think I can do it because I don't walk enough. And he goes, if you do it, I think you have to be on the injured list once or twice because it's so tough to do over 162. But this guy isn't a fluke. I mean, he always hits.
Oh, I'm with you.
And
I'm with you there.
Yeah, so the fact he's done it for a half a season, why not keep doing it? You can have the All-Star break, you can do it, and it's not like he's getting tired, trying to hit home runs and stuff like that. I think he's got a chance. I really do.
Listen, more likely to stay where they currently are in the standings, even though they've been traditional Titans, the Astros or the Dodgers?
The Dodgers, they should be in the playoffs. I think Astros are going to, fight for their lives to get in. They've just been decimated with injuries. The reason I like the Dodgers, too, is they have so many prospects in the organization that they can get whoever they want to get some help. So I do think I like the Dodgers to, once again make the playoffs, and they could still win the division. Where the Astros, it's starting to become a wide gap now between them and the Rangers.
Yeah, you blink and it's 5. And my partner laughed at me. I had the Rangers in the playoffs.
I did laugh.
But I also have the Mariners playing in the World Series. So
I laughed at that too.
Let's not back pat just yet. But I'm a Dodgers guy through and through, and I'm cheering my brains out for Seager. It's good to see him bounce back. But did you see any parts of this staff coming together the way that they have for the Rangers?
No, I mean, I like Eovaldi. I thought, hey, this guy's a stud. He pitched well for Boston last couple of years, particularly last year. So, but not, I thought for them to be winning the division, you'd have to have DeGrom pitching being healthy and pitching. So, no, I didn't see this. I still thought the Astros were the team to beat. They could still win the division. We'll see. But I didn't see all these guys stepping up and, become like the 27 Yankees with that offense. I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, so full disclosure, yes, I did have the Rangers in the playoffs and the Mariners in the World Series, but equally ridiculous, I did not have the Rays making the playoffs. So let's start there. Should we listen, bench Franco, don't bench Franco, whatever. Like this has become plug and play. At what point do we just stop doubting the Rays, regardless of the prowess that we think resides in the AL East? It doesn't seem to matter.
It really doesn't. I remember this spring, so many scouts and baseball executives, kept saying, "Have you seen the Rays?" I said, "No," and they said, "Unbelievable." They said, "This might be the best Rays team ever." I think just I think because they don't have those big household names, and it's Tampa. I remember a former president of Fox Sports said the worst thing that can happen to network ratings is having anything affiliated with Tampa, in a World Series, Super Bowl, what have you. I said, even with Tom Brady, he said, yeah, just people don't walk around with Tampa Bay hats or things like that. It's just nobody cares about Tampa, and I think that's what's happening too. Plus the small payroll. I mean, they embarrass teams like the Yankees, Mets, Padres by doing it with a small payroll year after year.
We're talking to Bob Nightengale, USA Today Sports Major League Baseball columnist. Bob, who's one team in baseball right now playing poorly that you wouldn't count out to make a second half run?
I'd probably go to St. Louis Cardinals.
Let's go.
The other reason I say that too is just they're in the division, they're in the right division, and there's no power in there. Milwaukee's probably the team to beat. They're okay. The Cubs are a little short. Like I said, the Reds just don't have the pitching to sustain this. So I'll go Cardinals. I don't like what I'm seeing with the Mets and the Padres, and I think those two teams could go down in baseball history as the two most underachieving teams of all time.
Wow.
Bob, let me ask you. I'm just glad you didn't say the Padres because they scare me to death. I was deathly afraid when they got Melvin a year ago, and I'm like, this is enough to get them over the hump. They're uber talented. They pay a ton of money, man. But at what point did the Padres just underperform?
Yeah, it's like there's no fighting them. If they get down, then lose. I want to say they had the second or third fewest comeback wins in baseball. I think their record, I think they've only won 4 games all year when they haven't scored 4 runs. So the offense has really let them down. The pitching's been so-so. But just the roster construction, you take away those top 4 guys, it's a big drop-off. The top 4 guys, Tatis's doing something. Soto has gotten better. But, Bogarts has been struggling, and so has Machado.
Bob, what do you make of the AL Central? You brought up the Twins when talking Arise. They're 40-40. The Guardians are 37-40, and so forth down the list. Is it the Twins and Guardians versus the rest, or do you think the Tigers and White Sox could creep up into the mix by, let's just even say the end of July?
Tigers are kind of dangerous, it seems.
I think it's just a 2-team race. Tigers are just short. Wouldn't surprise me if they trade some guys at the deadline. The White Sox are, not going anywhere. They're a 500 team at best. So another disappointing year, showing that it's not any manager's fault. It's just the way that team is. Just there's a bunch of bad players on there. Nobody steps up. I think they should have loaded just about everybody except for Dylan Cease and Luis Robert. But yeah, I do think it's a 2-team race. Twins have got that great starting rotation. They need Correa to step up, and the Guardians have all the pitching in the world, just can't get any offense. I wouldn't be surprised if they do trade, Shane Bieber at the trade deadline, but only if they get back some offense that can, provide immediate help. They're too good of a team to be playing like this.
They scared me to death before the season started, and I laughed at my buddy. He's a D-backs fan, and he was kind of down on Lovello after the last year and a half. These guys are good. You see the long-term staying power in Arizona, don't you? I mean, Gallen may be the best pitcher no one talks about in baseball.
Yeah, no, I do think they're going to be around all year long. I'm not sure they're going to win the division, but I think they'll be in the hunt all year. I definitely think they're going to be a wild card spot, and they're going to get better and better. They just got to get some more pitching and let that young pitching develop.
Bob, we appreciate you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us, talking a little Major League Baseball. We'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob Nightengale, USA Today Sports Major League Baseball columnist at @BNightingale on Twitter. When we come back, we will go one step below and talk college baseball with Eric Sorenson to close out the show.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, and all is right in the world. Tigers win. Tigers win. The national championship is headed. pitch. Swing and a miss. And all is.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. And all is right in the world. Tigers win. Tigers win. The national championship is headed back to Baton Rouge. The dog pile begins left of the mound.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. Happy to be joined by Eric Sorenson, college baseball writer for D1 Baseball at Stitch_head on Twitter. Eric, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey,
thanks for having me on.
Good morning, man. Did you get any of those 80,000 Jello shots in with LSU fans, man? Could you believe how that turned into a 7-hour party if you include the start of the game time? Holy smokes.
Oh, yeah. I think actually once the score got to, what was it, 10-2, I think, after 4 innings, the rest of that game just felt like a giant party. It just felt like, everybody's here having a cocktail and just cheering on their team and talking and having a good time. They were just, it was taken over by LSU. Everybody knew it was pretty much over at that point. And yeah, it was just kind of party on, Garth. That was where it all happened.
All right, Eric, we talked before the CWS began. Now we get to chat when it's all wrapped up. Where does this CWS rank among the best you've ever watched or covered?
Yeah, I would say up until the last 2 nights, it was easily the best I thought that I've watched or covered since I was a kid. The first I guess what it was, 8 days of the College World Series were probably the best platform and the best just the star power on the field, the quality of play, the pitching, the defense, and you still had your home runs. It wasn't guerrilla ball. It wasn't the 90s all over again until the last two nights. And I think that's when just the pitching, the pitching just got really thin and the bats heated up, and that's just what happened. But prior to that, though, guys, yeah, this was as good of a College World Series and as good of a showcase as our sport could put on for fans that just, pay attention once the postseason is around. So I thought it was just great.
Eric, let me ask you. So I had said to you, hey, you know what? Like, I know LSU, their prowess, what's coming in with Skeens, but Eric, I'm telling you, they're going to be able to win this thing, even though Guidry has only really shown flashes of being who he could be in kind of the supers and the regionals, but he won't really have an impact in the CWS, and yet this bullpen is still going to hold it down. You'd have said to me what?
I would have said you've been putting some extra vodka in your coffee. Look, man. Hey, man.
They did it without him.
Yeah, and Skeens wasn't even a factor in the championship series. So that's the second year in a row that the MVP of the College World Series did not even play in the championship series, which is interesting. But yeah, look, man, these guys, as good as they were here, I mean, they got some guys that really stepped up and pitched well beyond what they'd been pitching all season. Because I looked back in SEC play, the LSU pitching staff had an ERA of over 6 in SEC games only. So those are playing, that's pitching against really good teams. They got battered pretty good, and that's who they were facing in the postseason. So I thought, man, I didn't think they'd get out of maybe even the regionals, super regionals. I knew you're almost going to get an instant W with Paul Skeens. You know that. But beyond that, man, it was a crapshoot. But this time they came up aces. I mean, Ackenhausen throws the game of his life, it seems like almost. Thatcher Hurd, who had an ERA well above 6, almost at 7, pitched twice and pitched great in those two games here at Omaha. So I think they just got the pitching performances they needed when they needed them the most, because those pitching performances were not happening all year long. It just was not happening until they got here, and that's what it takes to win in Omaha.
Gosh, the MLB had to be loving this College World Series final, watching the next 3 picks. When the draft rolls around, you're going to see the top 3 picks that were just here a month earlier. When you look at the 2 position players, Eric, because DB and I were talking about this off air a little bit this morning, who do you like more just overall, whether it's like how they look, how they play, body size, whatever? Do you like Dylan Cruz more or Wyatt Langford more?
Goodness, it's almost trying to pick between your favorite children you have. Now, look, guys,
I'm taking my youngest, more upside.
Oh yeah, there's always a double child out there. No, man, look, I'm going to go with Dylan Cruz still, just because of everything he put together and the way he stepped up. But that's no shade thrown at Wyatt Langford. He had a great College World Series as well. These two guys are both just going to be outstanding. And both of them just have the look of a pro player, especially Cruz just has the look of a pro player. And I expect both those guys are going to be up pretty soon into the bigs. But yeah, tough to choose between those two great players.
It's hard at this stage, especially. Listen, you're talking to a guy that has gotten beaten on that stage and won on that stage in a different sport. So no disrespect to either team. Yeah. But where is your level of disappointment? Where do you think it's greater? Florida and Caglione down the stretch and how they ended last night, or Wake Forest given their body of work offensively and how they went out?
Oh, I see what you're saying there. No, man. Oh, that's tough to say, because the Wake Forest LSU games, that felt like the College World Series finals. That felt like that was the 2 best teams almost. No disrespect to Florida.
Right? Because they did run the table.
Yeah, but and you have to also figure that Florida was 3-0 going in, but yeah, just that I really wish that would have been a final between Wake and LSU, because boy, it felt like that. So I'm not going to say that it was disappointment, because these teams, just to make it this far is so hard. It's so difficult to do, and it seems like LSU every few years makes it easy to do. But no, I'm not going to. I can't say that one is a bigger disappointment than the other. The only thing I'll say is that, Caglione had a tough outing. That was a tough way to end his season, which essentially ended Florida's season.
It seems like Wake Forest left more on the table, even though the Lauder scheme, that pitching matchup was so fantastic. I just didn't see them hitting below 190.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so putting it that way, that's true. And Kuhn's not playing the final game because of injury really hurt them. I thought that was a big hole in their lineup too that could have helped them in a game where every hit was at a premium too. So yeah, I will say that was a tough way to do it. That just kind of happens sometimes when you make it to Omaha. The funniest things can happen. Like we talked about LSU's pitchers in the bullpen stepping up. It can also go the other way. It can go sideways on you, and you can get in a cold streak, and you can struggle at the plate. And I think a lot of those Wake Forest guys, that's what happened with them.
Hey, Eric, and this is something that's so hard to overcome in the sport, and maybe it's a message to all of the young baseball players out there, but the performance of Jordan Thompson after the College World Series tournament that he had, I mean, only having one hit in the very first game and then going over all the way until Game 3, but also being able to put those errors behind him going into Game 3. I mean, just speak to the gamer mentality you have to be able to put the past in the past.
God, you talk about flushing the toilet, letting it just, putting it aside, putting it to history. That's exactly the point, Damon. You make up a really good point with that. And yeah, Thompson, it almost seemed like you just hit the ball toward him and something good was going to happen for your offense, the way he was kind of struggling in a couple of those games there. But, man, you got to give the guy some credit for bouncing back. And I kind of look at him and Ty Evans of Florida the same way, because Ty Evans was the lowest of batting averages on the starting nine, and yet in the postseason he led Florida with a 370-something average, I think, and hit 5 home runs. Yeah, you just never know when it's going to turn on a dime. Your fortunes can do that. That's baseball 101, that you flush it, you put it behind you, because you got to come back and do the same thing over and over again. And this game will really pile up on you if you trip over your lip because you're feeling sorry for yourself. So yeah, kudos to Thompson on that. He had a whale of a game last night and really helped the team.
All right, Eric, I'm going to make you the czar of college baseball here just for a sec. We've seen the system tweak and the bracket play in the last 15 years. We've also seen the championship series model change. If you could tweak it, would you reseed after the losses, or are you okay with the short window, even though you may play the same team multiple times in a short stint?
Oh man, if you made me the czar of college baseball, I would start on so many different other things first. But like the transfer portal and these teams essentially just paying players. It's not NIL; they're just paying players now. But here's the thing, though, guys. Yeah, I was always a fan. Now, way back when I was a kid, the way the brackets played out, you didn't face, it wasn't just two different brackets meeting for a championship. The way the brackets laid out, you could play anybody and everybody, and it got a good mix. I wish they would kind of switch it around to where you didn't have these, again, Wake Forest, LSU playing this many times, 3 times. I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they'd kind of have that switch brackets thing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, does softball do that in the College World Series for softball? I'm not sure if they do or not, but anyway, that would be a good start for me. I would like to see the teams get mixed up, jumbled up a little bit more, and have a chance to play just about anybody in the field of 8.
Eric, quickly here before we let you go, just got about 45 seconds. Chase Burns just announced entering the transfer portal. Where do you think he ends up?
Well, I thought he actually said that he wasn't, because he was going back despite 6-figure offers from Vanderbilt and LSU. I thought that's what I'd heard, unless you have new information on that.
I'm reading something right on an ESPN article that says Tennessee standout reliever Chase Burns in transfer portal.
Okay, that's news to me, but yeah, who knows where here's how I'll answer that, and I know we only have a few seconds left. He'll go wherever the best money is, and that's kind of the thing about our sport I really am not liking right now. That's what I'm not digging.
Interesting.
I'm with you, though.
I vibe with that point, too. Eric, we appreciate it this morning. Thanks so much. Thanks for being with us throughout the College World Series.
Of course. Thanks for sharing the airwaves, guys.
That's Eric Sorenson. college baseball writer for D1 Baseball at Stitch_head on Twitter. Makes a good point.
Yeah, I know, right?
But that is the way the world's trending.
He just kind of landed that
right?
plane real quick. It's like short runway, and it's like, oh
yeah,
I'd
landed
like
the
to
plane
kinda-
on the highway.
Kind of like to adjust that, but he does. That is legit, though.
And you know what? Who's to say that we don't get into that point later on this week, this summer?
He'll come
Who
up
knows?
after the draft.
We'll see you again tomorrow.